Welcome back. Now, I'm not going to go over all of our steps that we used in the section where we talked about how to solve problems and how to talk through your problems in front of an interviewer. And we even watched that Google video of all the things you need to do. Because that's going to take way too long of a time, I'm going to speed things up and just talk about the key points of how you would solve this problem. Well, in order to reverse a string, the first thing we want to do is some sort of a check of our input. We can't just assume that we're going to always receive a string. What if somebody calls the reverse function with, well, undefined, or with a number? What happens then? And a good thing to always start off with is to check the input. In my case, I'm going to do a simple check. Let's say that if there's no string, so that is undefined, or perhaps that the string.length is less than 2, that means, well, if string.length is less than 2, that means I'm just receiving one letter or no letters, in which case we don't really need to do any operations. It's already kind of reversed. And we can add different input validation here, such as using the type of keyword in JavaScript to check if it's a string type. But that's something you can just do on your own. Actually, let's implement it since we're here anyway, just to show you. So I can say type of string if it doesn't equal string. Type of str, which is the parameter we receive, doesn't equal the string type. Well, in that case, we can just return, that's not good. Otherwise, let's do some operation. To reverse the string, well, let's think about this. We want to convert it into an array. So I'm going to create a backwards array. And this is what we're going to return from the function. I'm going to return the array that is reversed, but we want to return a string, right? It reverses a string. This should return a string. Even though we're going to convert whatever we receive into an array, at the end, we want to turn it back into a string. So in JavaScript, we can do the toString method or the join method. And we just say join all the items in the array. Now in here, we're going to grab the length of the array or the string because we're going to be using it a lot and we don't want to have repeated code. So I'm going to say length minus 1 is how many items we have in the string. Or maybe we should name this items number. Or actually, total items. That's a better name. Now, these total items, so we're going to loop through our string. We'll say let I equals to the total items. So I is going to equal however many characters we have in our string. And we're going to keep going until I is equals to 0. And all we're going to do, because we want to go from back to front, we're going to decrement this. So we're going to go from the length of the string all the way back. So we're going to start off with I, E, R, D, and A, and insert those into an array that we've created, the backwards array, one by one. So in this loop, all we're going to do is say backwards dot push each item that we're going to create. So str I. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa. Why didn't we just convert the string into an array? You told me all about converting strings into an array, and we didn't really do that. And JavaScript actually has the str.split, or we can run the split command to split things into an array. But with JavaScript, we can actually just use strings as arrays and access each property like this with bracket notation so that they essentially are arrays. So we don't have to run any split commands. This also works. And all we're doing is we're going backwards one by one and pushing each item of our given string into our array. So if I console log here before we run the join command, the backwards array, and I run reverse, and let's reverse this string. Let's run this. Oh, and you may have noticed that this length didn't really come from anywhere. It should be total items. So this is the total items. This is the problem with live coding. I try to show that everybody makes mistakes, even myself. And it's good because this way you think through the problem. And these total items, remember, we want to keep going as long as I is greater than or equal to 0. So if I now run this, hey, look at that. We have an array with all of our backwards items right in here. And you see here that the return value that we get is the backwards string that we received because we join it at the end. Very cool. I hope you got that answer. Or maybe you have a better answer than me. Because what I did here is not necessarily the cleanest way. And depending on which programming language you use, you might have built-in methods that simplify this step. Let me show you what I mean. In JavaScript, for example, we can use some built-in methods that come with arrays to just simplify this whole thing and make our code a lot more readable. Let's create a new function, and I'm going to call this reverse2. And this reverse2 is going to, once again, receive some sort of an input. I won't do any input validation for this one. You can just assume that we can just copy and paste it here. But in here, we can do a simple return statement, grab the string, run the split command, because this time around, we're not going to access the I like we did up here. We're going to convert it into an array so that we can use a built-in method that comes in JavaScript arrays called reverse. And this reverse does what we just did here for us. And now we just join it at the end. So by using a built-in method called reverse, I avoided all this work. How nice is that? Let's see if that works. I'm going to say reverse2, I'm going to run, and look at that. It's still working. What about another solution? Again, many different ways. And let's say the interviewer says, is there a more modern, cleaner way that you can make this function? And because in JavaScript, there's the new ES6 syntax, you can even create a one-line function, call it reverse3. That's going to take a string, and it's going to do string.split. And again, do the exact same thing using arrow function this time around. And this should still work the exact same. Look at that. And if you want to get fancy, you can again use a new feature of JavaScript, which is destructuring, or not destructuring, this is the spread operator. If I run this, we no longer need the split. I can run this and I get the same thing. Again, I just want to demonstrate to you that there are many different ways to solve a problem. And an interviewer is not going to reject you for a job just because you implemented it this way versus this way. It depends on how you deliver your solution. And this is something that we talked about in our How to Solve Problems section. How you want to talk through the problem, explain to the interviewer why you did. And as long as you understand the pros and cons of each solution, that's what makes a great engineer. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.